Knowing how a machine cuts has a direct impact on your designs. In this lesson, we're going to talk about the CNC machine's working envelope and how to account for it when designing your parts. So let's get into it. New semester, new classroom. We redesigned it all to be around a makerspace. The whole point of this class is to make you a better builder. With that being said, let's start with lesson 2. In the previous lesson, we talked about the anatomy of the CNC machine. Now it's time to start talking about how that part is interacting inside of it. For this lesson, I'm going to be using this eraser as our example. We're going to be talking about how it's moving around and how that machine sees it. Let's come over here to the board to get going. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is the axes of movement. And this is going to be built around a coordinate system that is outlining the area and space. We talked about in the last semester that we have different planes and axes, the room being an example, so our walls and our floor and our other wall. With this being said, we have to understand how the machine sees that coordinate system. And with that, we use something called the right-hand rule. Now, a little bit of this is going to be difficult to talk about on camera, but we're going to do it together. What we're going to do is hold out our right hand. We're going to extend our thumb out, our index finger, and our middle finger. Now we can rotate this around, but our thumb is going to be our x-axis. Our index finger is always going to be your y-axis, and your middle finger will be our z. So if you hold it out in front of you, that is pointing in the positive directions of the machine. Since the spindle, the part that's holding on to that end mill that we talked about in the last lesson, is always in our Z, if you hold out your hand, your X is going to be to your right and your Y is going to be away from you. Now that we understand that a little bit better, that's going to be positive directions in the machine. We can now talk about how the different ones interact with each other. Now, CNC machines come in a lot of different flavors. Most of them are 3-axis machines. This is going to be the most basic version of it. And typically, that Z-axis is going to be that spindle with that end mill. It's going to travel up and down. It's going to be independent of the movement of our part. Now, our part is going to travel in that planar direction of our X and our Y, so flat movements. So if we're holding this out, it's going to move laterally, back and forth, and to and from. Those 3 movements make up that 3 axes. If we want to add more complexity to our parts, more complexity to the machine, we can add a 4th axis. Now that 4th axis is going to either rotate about our X or our Y axis. So if we're looking at this part, again, we have our end mill coming up and down. We can either rotate the part along our X or our Y. Now this allows us to do operations on these 3 faces here or on these faces here as we rotate that part. To add even more complexity, we can go to a 5th axis machine, which allows us to move about A and B axis. So A is typically around our X, and B is typically around our Y. What that does is that, again, end mill coming down, we can rotate up and here. So we can get up onto these points here, and we can add even more complexity to our parts. Now that we kind of understand how that part is interacting within the machine though, we can start talking about our working envelope. Now the working envelope is how much area in which that machine can translate that part back and forth inside the machine. And that working envelope directly affects the overall part size that you have. So you have 2 things working against you. You have the overall area in which it can get within that X, Y, and Z space, and you have the complexity in which the machine can make the part. The reason why we want higher axes, 5th axis movements, is that we can do this same part with less setups. On a 3-axis machine, in order for me to machine this side, I have to physically take the part, reset it, and then machine, and then reset it and machine. Each time we do that reset, it's called a new fixture. That's going to add tolerance to our parts. We're going to end up having a looser tolerance. With 5th axis, I can do that part in one setup. So I can grab this part and flip it around any which way. With that being said, the amount of space and how that part is interacting inside the machine limits the overall size. So you're not going to be able to make as large of a part. And there's 2 different ways in which this X, Y, and Z movement can happen. We can either have it be where the part is moving inside the machine, which is going to be seen in most of your Haas and Brother machines. Or you can have a gantry setup. Now the gantry setup is going to be like our CNC routers. We'll go ahead and grab a marker for this. If my part, if we're looking at from the top view, and this is our spindle here, in order for me to machine this other corner here, I have to translate the part all the way over. So that translation, if this is the center of the part, we need this much working area in order to hit both sides of that part. On a gantry machine, the gantry is moving over and across the part, meaning that I only need this much working area for that part. The difference between those two is what enables a gantry machine to cut a 4x8 size piece of material versus a CNC having a much smaller working envelope. The CNC machine would have to be the size of this room that we're in. Now that we understand how that machine is working and interacting with the parts, we can go into the next lesson where we start talking about how different end mills are removing that material. So we'll see you on the next one.